press the bell icon on YouTube and don't miss another update.
Namaste and welcome to the Wednesday 10 p.m. show. And of course, if it is Wednesday, who else but Shri Vibhuti Jha.
Namaste.
Welcome, Vibhuti Ji.
Namaste. Thank you very much, and thanks to all the audience, who are here 10 p.m. India time. I know it is not late in India. 10 बजे तो शाम शुरू होती है वहाँ पे, लेकिन फिर भी दिन में थके हुए लोग
हमारे यहाँ फिर से कर्फ्यू लग गया 11 बजे से.
अच्छा, okay.
Night curfew.
So that they all join together to watch a bearded old man with no hair. It's very exciting for me.
Oh, bearded with no hair and hair with no beard. Good combination.
That's right.
Okay, so today's topic, Quad versus China. And now, of course, they're talking about Quad Plus, and maybe they'll talk about Quad Plus Plus. And let me take you back to the First World War, when it was the Austro-Hungarian Empire, plus Germany and everybody else, ganging up together against them. Then, of course, it was everybody else ganging up against Germany defending. And now everybody else ganging up against poor China. What's going on? Are we heading for the WW3?
When you say poor China, I can only chuckle and laugh. Bechara, like the saying goes. That I take that phrase from, just released. If people in India may have come across the fact that in Colorado yesterday, there was a gunfire, and for 10 people, several people died, many injured. And this is how the media is playing the whole thing. So they said that we do not know who killed. So there were several.
Of course, I know the shotgun killed.
Shotgun, yeah. So everybody they killed, and then media was, including Kamala Harris's niece. She said it must be the white supremacist guy, and all that. Eventually, the name was released. He's Al-Ahmadi or somebody, belonging to that faith.
Oh, the poor guy is a victim of circumstances.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's a victim of white supremacism.
Exactly.
And he's a victim of all the whole world ganged up together against this poor fellow.
So, the lawyer
all the Islamophobes have driven him to do this. I'm quite sure.
So the lawyer has advised him to claim, mental torture by the other guys to make him feel bad, to make us feel rotten. That's the whole thing. The guilt feeling जो हमने काफी बार बात की है इसके बारे में, that's what China is not in that scenario. China is not being accused, But my thought process is, that the First World War and Second World War, they were not essentially world wars. They were theatrical activities in Europe, which was converted into a world war because the colonial powers brought their colonial slaves to fight the war for them, The Second World War, because Japan was enticed into the European conflict, and thus it became a world war scenario. Even the colonies fought that. But a Third World War, in my opinion, is not going to happen in the scale that people are talking about. And I'm addressing that because you have mentioned that potential of Third World War exists because the tensions are very, very large. China is in conflict with almost everybody. And China is pushing its agenda, and it's not agenda only in the, it is on all fronts: technology, social, economics, and politics, of influencing the politics, influencing education, talking about his own brand of capitalism, denying that, decrying everything that is prevailing in West. And what China has done, give them credit for that. As they say, you learn more from your enemies than your friends, that they have truly understood the strength and weakness of democracy, and they have chosen to hit at democracy for everything that we are proud of. So we are being knocked out on our nose, on our ears, on our eyes, and we are made to look weak because freedom of press, liberties, everything they are challenging, that you can't handle that. And that's the problem that the rest of the world is not able to come to terms with. So the areas of collaboration and contest are technology, trade, economy, regional power, grab, military superiority, and ideology. Remember that. Everything is a question of debate. The confluence and cooperation is being sought at only one level: climate change and currently pandemic. And China, erupts with its own two NOCO and NAPAC, as I call them, nuclear powers, so to say. That वो कर देंगे, उसको control करना है. The challenge is they are not even a problem. Pandemic is a China creation. China doesn't want to be blamed, but the rest of the world wants to find out. And because China has its clout, they are doing this. Importantly, so I think Third World War is not happening. There will be local skirmishes and testing of the strength, because each one knows that the war will be fought to win, and the winner will not win by conventional war. It will be nuclear. And if it is nuclear, then it is going to be a holocaust of a kind that only we see in Terminator movies. It is not going to happen in real time. So nobody wants that war. Conventional war doesn't matter anymore. So it is about territorial and ideological thing to capture the imagination. So that's not happening in my opinion, but there could be a war driven by ideology that we are very aware of. But interestingly enough, the Quads thing is an idea that was floated by Shinzo Abe in 2006, because Japan is the one country that has always been intimidated by China. And Japan is the one which floated the idea of like-minded democratic nations in the Pacific to address the Chinese concern. So that's how Australia, India, and of course the United States has to be the party to this entire adventure. So democratic people, democratic countries, and that's what is going on. So we are talking about no Third World War. And I'm thinking about the fact that China is the center of everybody's disgust, because nobody likes Chinese bullying. Nobody likes China's killer contracts. Nobody likes the fact that when Australia raised some issues, China quashed their supply chain. So if you look at the entire formation of these four countries, India is one country that can, through its Make in India program, become the counterweight to China's manufacturing juggernaut. Japan has a technology. Australia provides the strategic location. And America is America, of course. So these are what is important here for each one of these four countries to collaborate in a manner that they are able to maintain the supply chain should China go berserk and start acting and flexing its muscles, so that economically, no country's supply chain is impacted adversely. That's the important part. And I hope people in India understand the basic tenet of Make in India. It is as much to make India self-sufficient, self-reliant. It is as much to supply Indians of their goods and services, the need for goods and services, as to become, like the coronavirus vaccine, supplier to the world. And that, incidentally, was the speech of Prime Minister Modi 2 years ago at United Nations, when he talked about adopting Indian style and Desi style, Indian style of participating of economic growth of India and become part of that process.
Okay, let me take you back to the my opening statement, and that was when I said, okay, and you kind of bolstered my statement by saying that China is taking advantage of democracy. And the way the democracies are going, I think China is in a very good position to take advantage of that, because we are stuck in what is called ideology of democracy rather than practical democracy. I recall, in fact, let me add that a war situation, like a Third World War situation, if it does come up, and as you said, it will be a nuclear war, China will be in a very good position to take control of that war. even before the democracy come to terms with it and decide and go through their lengthy decision-making processes, China will be in the driver's position. I recall the ancient scriptures, the Chanakya Niti, the ancient republics. In fact, if you remember, India had probably the oldest going tradition of republics. They are mentioned even in Mahabharata. You know that even something like a Mathura was a republic.
Right.
And because it was a republic, it was very easily run over by a Kans who simply uh, invaded the Sabhagrah and deposed the king and took over. As simple as that.
Right.
Then there is this very, very famous story, and that is about the Republic of Vaishali, the Lichavi Republic, and very close to your place.
Right.
That tale, as it goes, you can give me your version because I think it must be very much part of the folklore there in Mithila. That it was a republic, as the republics are, very argumentative, and everything used to be debated and discussed, and all decisions were supposed to be taken in their parliament or whatever the sabha that used to be there. And the Ajat Shatru, the Pataliputra king, he decided that this kingdom is ripe for taking, and he decided to invade them. The intelligence was received. It wasn't heeded immediately, but then he crossed the Ganga and started proceeding towards Vaishali. The news was relayed, and the all the what is called the elites, they gathered and they started debating what to do, and they just went on debating and trying to decide a course of action, how to tackle this situation. And then suddenly somebody rushed in and he said that well, they are at the gates of Vaishali, and but the debate still went on, and lo and behold, there was nobody to debate after a while. All the debate ceased, and Vaishali was run over and taken over without an arrow being shot.
Right.
So,
That's what.
and that seems to be the state of the democracy is the world over these days.
You are absolutely right. And, Vaishali's story is the precursor to Shatranj ke Khiladi, as the saying goes, if I may add to that. And yesterday, since you mentioned about the story and history, I was watching a movie called The Justice League. Okay. It's a fascinating movie. I would urge people to watch not the 2.5 hour version, but the full version of 4 hours, which is there on one of the channels. But the story is told. The villain, the Darkius, is trying to catch the entire afterlife, the life on the planet Earth, and destroy and keep it under his control. And he is working towards attacking the Earth because he knows that these guys are never going to unite. So the Earth has its Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and all the kinds of supermen and women, but they will never unite because unity requires purpose. And each of the good Superman has its own unique purpose to attend to, until Batman brings everybody together to fight the evil. So it is very important to remember, it takes time for the good to get ready and unite. That's the reason why unity of purpose is key for the war. In the Chinese case, fortunately, I believe China will not have that advantage because we are no longer living in an age-old non-technology world. We are living in a world where the news travels as fast as mind, if I may say so. As you get the meaning what I'm saying. Because everything that happens instantaneously. So China will not have that advantage in this era. May not have that advantage. Let me not use the will. I say may not have that advantage because people are now knowing. The preparation is on. In geopolitical terms, this quad did not happen overnight because Trump wanted, Modi wanted, Abe wanted. The conversation began in 2006 with Shinzo Abe starting this entire need for democratic people coming together. And these 4 countries were identified for this purpose. And the reason is very simple, that we have to control the Pacific, because that's where the Chinese are trying to control things. And we have to control that part of the upsurge that China is imposing its own economic strength, even decrying the American model of capitalism, which enabled them to become rich, but imposing on others their will and their farman, if I may use that word. So that's what is now being fought over. And you are right, China may end up being at a Hitler, like Germany of that time, maybe having one ally in North Korea, perhaps. But the world, we have talked about this in the past, that entire Southeast Asia and Asian countries, other than the Napakis, everybody is scared of Chinese hegemony, other than those who are their lackeys. So the question here is that world doesn't want Third World War, and world doesn't want a dictatorship to come about. See, this is what is another important part. Everybody wants freedom. Who doesn't want freedom, right? Everybody wants freedom. Even Arab Spring was all about freedom. So whether they got circumcised, euphemistically speaking, because of their Sharia restrictions, that they can't have freedom, because freedom and Sharia don't go together, because you have to be bound by the laws there. So Arab Spring, people coming from other places, they're all looking for freedom. There is nobody on the planet Earth who doesn't want freedom, other than even the Chinese people want freedom. But the regime is dictatorial, as a result of which there will be greater strength and China will have to be curbed. Right now, there is no supply chain to the world other than China. Think about it. They brought Wuhan virus and they are supplying the masks to the whole world. Isn't it an irony? Isn't it an irony? Including designer masks.
Also did.
Yeah. So that's what I feel, that areas of collaboration are just climate change. I'd see no other area of collaboration between China and the rest of the world. Pandemic is an area of collaboration. Climate change is this. But on trade, technology, economy, power industry, regional power, ideology, there will be conflict, because each one is trying to reach out with their own strategies.
Okay. So the next logical question is whether this Quad is just going to be a talking shop, or it can actually progress into some kind of a military alliance.
I think it is beginning to shape in that fashion, because if you notice, the plan to have these military exercises, which have recently been concluded, they were already made earlier on. The posturing and the message is very clear. It was reported I was reading some report in which they said that it was Mr. Jaishankar who, in May 19 G20 meet, persuaded India, America, Australia, and Japan leaders to sit bang opposite Xi as a symbol of standing together against China. That's why these are matters of observation, which you get to know later on. You don't see it in the moment, but these are all moments in importance. I think it will be a military alliance. They don't want to call it as a group against China. This conversation has been in the open for a while, that United States, everybody has been talking about that we want to collaborate for Indo-Pacific region, but this is not aimed at China. Yeah, that's fine enough, because you don't want China to gain the weapon of argument that these people are colluding against me, so I have the equal right of military intervention there. So they don't want to talk about a military alliance. The economic alliance is the key part here. Japan, with its technology might, we all know about Japanese technology. India offers a big market and a potential economic might, matches India in population and size to create an alternate manufacturing supply chain to the world. America, with its technology and engineering and everything else. So this is a collaboration with Australia, with a strategic location. They want to become the new supply chain for the world, from masks to military equipments. So that's what is the important agenda. For that, Make in India program must succeed for India's own benefits, because at one point, you are as good as the weakest link. What was envisaged that India and United States will be the weakest links of these four. Because India and Australia. Because Japan is resolute on this matter. They definitely fear China a lot. Australia, because its supply chain can be choked. United States, because its overabundance, over reliance on the democratic principles, so to say. And India, because of its own bilateral scenario or the dhimmi policies that we had followed under Congress. But now the muscles have been flexed. Indian soldiers have shown the might. It's time for Indian civilians to show their might and the capability to be equal match in manufacturing part. And that's what I'm talking about. The skill, Indians need to build up that skill thing to match China toe by toe. In terms, just as the soldiers matched on the battlefront, Indian civilians manufacturing industry has to match China. There is no choice for us. Otherwise, we will get colonized because of too many, evil within our own country. So I feel that India is no longer going to trust China ever. I think any Indian will not trust China other than the communists and Rahul Gandhi's Congress party because of their allegiance of the agreement they have between the parties. So the point of the matter is that this Quad is a real thing. It's more real than just as NATO was in Europe. This is a real thing, and I think that if any country softens in the name of, and China softens, China is all waiting to exploit that because everybody needs one another. And as you very rightly told about the story of Vaishali, this is what is required. China will be poking at the weak spots of every country. It's easy for democracy to be disrupted very easily for its own considerations, to put in paraphrase.
Yes, as you said, for its own consideration, and that we see that half front is present not just in India, but it is present almost in every democracy.
Right.
That is the big minus point of all democracies. I don't think there is any democracy that doesn't have that half a front within the proverbial fifth column.
Right.
Maybe Japan may be an exception. I don't know.
Right.
But all other democracies will have that problem. And then we are talking about the Quad graduating to Quad plus. Because if that happens, now that we see that European Union and China are on a war path on the Uyghur question.
Right.
And they have placed sanctions over China. And of course, this, what is called, very, very imperialistic sounding instrument of sanction, that also bugs me quite a lot because, sanctions can be used against anyone.
Right.
And they can be very well used against well-behaved democracies as well as they have been in the past.
Right.
We know how things are orchestrated against somebody like Iraq, for instance. And those WMDs, the weapons of mass destruction, on which Iraq was attacked and actually which gave birth to ISIS, they were never found. But nobody has taken America to task for that.
Right.
So you think also that in a way, China emerging as a big power, in fact, is good for countries like India because it gives them more leverage against these imperialistic countries like the United States, the neo-imperialist, and which colonizes not just in terms of, not exactly in terms of economic colonization, but which colonizes in so many other ways. In the matter of culture, in the matter of academia, in the matter of what is called wokeism. I think in that sense, we should actually welcome China's rise. I don't think America would have given as much leverage to India ever had China not been breathing down its neck.
It's a very, very valid point. And as a matter of fact, some time ago, Chinese were trying to persuade India not to listen to the West, because they are the West, and Europe is on decline. It's a matter of record that they are declining. They are no longer that powerful anymore. They're imperialist. They may have imperialist design through East India Company is over, but various MNCs are operating as their agents, occupiers, so to say. So I'm not going to deny that. China has always been asking India, don't trust the West, trust me. But the Chinese have only one problem. एक म्यान में दो तलवारें नहीं रह सकती हैं. They want India to be subjugated. They want India to be part of their process, and that is not going to happen. I don't think Indians must accept that. So when it comes to choosing between two unwanted things, you want to take that unwanted where you have a possibility of a recourse. It's like Vodafone or some recent company, they won arbitration awards against India. Would they ever win, or will China ever respect any of those things? So there is an element of democratic practices that brings about greater awareness of the likes between the two, whether you like it or not, whether we like it or not. But they are both democratic structures. So I'm against China's hobnobbing for the simple reason. Chinese and Pakistanis, there are two countries in the world, will never mean well to India. That is something my belief. It's my belief. They do not mean well to you. They may treat you as a sporadic friend, the need of the hour. Lachari ka naam Mahatma Gandhi. But these are the countries. These are the two countries which are essentially fulfill the phrase "मुंह में राम बगल में छुरी." मुंह में राम ना भी हो, लेकिन बगल में छुरी हमेशा रहती है इन दोनों countries के लिए. That is one area where I will always be circumspect about Chinese and Pakistani storyline. You did a very nice today about Pakistan needing to have wanting to have a talk. There is only one purpose there. They have only one purpose. They are showing it as an effort made towards establishing peace so that they get out of the grey list of IATF. That's it. हमने offer किया, India ने नहीं माना, don't blame me for that. So they play the chit-pat game continuously. So we have to remember this fact that, the impoverished Bhikhari country that it has become, unfortunately for us, I mean, if it was a prosperous country, maybe we will not have this argument. But had it is the condition that it is in, I have been told about by Pakistani people that we don't want Kashmir. Who wants Kashmir? We can't handle our own country. But the reason why Kashmir is there, it gives me an equivalence with India. We become the de facto or de facto controller or sympathizers of Muslim cause in India. और हम नासूर बन के चुपते हैं आपके अंदर हर बार. That's what. Otherwise, अगर कश्मीर आपने सोने की थाली में भी हमें दे दी, तो हम नहीं लेंगे उससे भैया, क्योंकि अगर वो सेटल हो गया तो हम तो one of those नाजायज one of the irrelevant countries like Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, whatever बन के रह जाएंगे, हमें कौन पूछेगा फिर? That is their geopolitical policy.
Yes.
And we have to reject. Actually, I suggested. I was watching some program. Pakistan says you take over your area of Kashmir and give me POK. I said, no, I will give you money to resettle everybody who is in POK, but empty POK. Our offer has to be of that kind. Equivalence नहीं है. आप POK से जितने लोग हैं उनको ले जाइए, हम आपको सेटल करवाने का सारा खर्चा देंगे. उसमें आप मिलिट्री खा ले या सिविलियन खा ले, doesn't matter, but आप उनको अपने यहाँ से ले जाइए. That's what our territory is. Otherwise, we are coming. So, then coming back to Quad part, I think this is a serious one because Chinese threat is no longer a perception matter.
I'll just interrupt you here.
Sure.
Just interrupt you here before you go back to Quad, because you mentioned Pakistan. And here I have to mention something which I have often mentioned, something that is written and advocated by Christine Fair. Not that I like the lady too much. I mean, she's too full of hubris for one, and quite idiotic at other times. But this is one thing. Of course, you have to give the devil his or her due,
Right.
because this one book which is written about the Pakistan's military's way of war is actually pretty good. And one of the things that she says there is that even if you give Kashmir, the whole of Jammu Kashmir, on a platter to Pakistan, thinking that that will get you peace, it's never going to happen. And that is also the bedrock of my arguments in my book, Unbreaking India, where I say that Pakistan has a fundamental problem. And that fundamental problem is that of fundamentalism.
Right.
Because their worldview does not permit them to seize the unceasing jihad against the kafir till they have conquered the entire subcontinent and Islamized it and planted the firm flag of Islam over every nook and corner and wiped out Hinduism, wiped out Kufr, because that finds way even into their military doctrines. Christine Fair has done a good job of actually culling them out from the green book of the Pakistan military and laying it out bare for everybody to see. And that includes such brilliant works of military doctrine as the Quranic concept of war written by Brigadier.
Right.
So that is the situation as far as the Pakistan is concerned. So that is something that we need to actually write off. And that is why I did that talk, because I wanted everybody to know that what exactly having a talk with Pakistan means. It inevitably means inviting another terror attack.
Right. Right.
Yes. Now on to China.
Professor Christine Fair was my professor when I did a course from Georgetown University, an EDX course on Georgetown University on terrorism and counterterrorism. And, I had mentioned this to her actually, that it was told to me by a Pakistani friend of mine. आप हिंदू लोग बहुत ही शरीफ इंसान हैं. आप क्या समझते हैं कि आप कश्मीर हमें सिल्वर थाली में दे दोगे तो हम लेके बैठ जाएंगे? This was his statement to me, and I shared that with her actually. So I'm glad.
Oh, she never acknowledged it. I think we need to sue her. I am looking for any reason to sue her. Ever since the time she called Bhagwan Ram a pig,
yeah,
I am waiting to get even with her.
Right. I mean, she's brash. She's her confidence goes into arrogance, and although she can be very rustic in her choice of words with everybody else, but I totally disapprove. But as you rightly said, that she has done a work in that part of the world, and that's fine. I don't have to like her everywhere. But this is the point which I'm very proud of, and I'm very happy to be in a good company on that thought process.
I'm going to flag her, and I'm going to tell her that you plagiarized. You apologize for either acknowledge or apologize, or I'm going to sue you on behalf of Shri Vibhuti Jha.
But this is important. Coming back to Quad, this is very critical. We have to Indians, as you rightly pointed out, democracy ki jo weakness hai, is that we are now currently victims of, very nice word, illiberalism, as a saying. We have become victims of illiberalism and populism. I mean, think about it. Today, Mr. Biden chucked out the Trump immigration policy to curb people from coming. He invited everybody. Today, we have his administration has earmarked $2.6 billion to take care of people at the gate. $86 million to house them in hotels. To in New York and San Francisco and Seattle, they put up these homeless people in 5-star hotels at $1,000 a day. And now the 5-star hotels are saying we are losing clients because we can't afford to have them because they pee in the rooms and they destroy the carpets. So that is the way this illiberalism and populism has been working here. And that's the sad part. And, this is what I'm talking about in the Quad sense. People have now become careful because the information travels at the speed of light, so to say. So it is, I think, people have begun to realize that there is an intellectual invasion happening. By school, we know that, how our textbooks have been invaded. We would not have known about it. But after 70 years of freedom, we now know. I mean, how many even noticed that 5 education ministers under the Congress rule ever since independence, where they were all Muslims? I'm not doubting their integrity or love for India.
I am.
That puts me. You are. But I'm saying that that makes you think.
No, I have a reason to do that because I have done a research into their what is called their thought process. I have done a research into the thought process of Abul Kalam Azad.
Right.
And he was an Islamist par excellence.
Right.
And the people who followed him, what was Fakhruddin Ali Ahmad, all these were in the same lineage of Maulana Azad. And Nurul Hasan, not just he was an Islamist, he was also a communist.
Right.
You may not. You are probably too charitable.
I'm not.
I definitely not only I doubt, I assert that they had an ulterior motive in whitewashing the Muslim imperial atrocities.
Right. So this is what is important, that we have to begin. That is why the alternate channels like we here at Jaipur Dialogues and soon to start JT USA and many others are doing this. And I say, let the tribe increase to spread the word of proper education, proper knowledge, proper information. And you will gradually see, as the world is now emerging, everybody is sick and tired of this political correctness. And I had said this 12 years ago. I don't fear change of a stupid president in the US or trying to do something. What my concern is the United States is becoming an entitlement-driven society and too politically correct, as a result of which an element of dishonesty has got in our conduct. And what you will see going forward now, that many diplomatic niceties of evading an issue, platitudes, and normal diplomatic brouhaha, that is going to go away. Who would have ever thought? I mean, there are people who don't like Mr. Jaishankar, but who would have thought that Jaishankar doesn't need a briefing from the foreign ministry to act as a minister? He knows everything. Now, he may not be politically astute as a politician, but diplomatically, you can't fault him on that. He doesn't need a briefing. He needs to be just updated, perhaps. So the point is that you will see, who would have ever thought that Jaishankar, India's external minister, would make a statement that our intent is to demonstrate an aggressive India. These are the mindset shift that needs to happen. And for that, a lot of stuff has to be done. Even the diplomatic corps has to be taught that you are a wartime diplomat now. You are not a peacetime, non-aligned diplomat anymore. Assert yourself. That's why I use the 4A phrase: arise, awake, assert, and act. When will you awaken? This is the time for India to rise. And this is the time India has been taken into serious consideration by the rest of the world for its good part that it has done. So it's not that India has a bad image. We have not worked to develop our own clout. That's what I'm talking about. Even our recent struggle with Swastik here or Audrey Truschke here, there is an Indian American Muslim Council here, They call themselves Indian American Muslim Council. Anytime anything that happens, they have to write about India. They will say 12 different organizations, 12 major organizations are against India's Hindutva agenda, right? They are supporting Audrey Truschke. There is no Indian organization to answer Indian American Muslim Council here, whatever they are, whoever they are. But they are very organized. But now I have asked VHPA, which is Hindu Parishad of America, the Hindu American Foundation, guys, get politically alert and aware. If we may be very well liked and respected in the community, we may not be a law and order problem. Our guys don't go shooting and killing people. But then let's take advantage of that, right? Let's draw the political clout, but that's what is begun to happen now. That's what is.
I think we saw that happen during the Rajas controversy, and I think
Right.
that seems to be reaching some kind of a
Right.
conclusion.
Correct. Correct.
And yes, just as an aside, because today I floated an idea. I don't know whether you came across that. And I sought opinion of our people, that is our followers on Jaipur Dialogues, asking them whether it would be all right. I will, in fact, what I'll do is I'll read it out. That's
Okay.
the best way to do it. The opinion that I sought from people. So, what I wanted to know whether it would be all right if we created an index of Hindu friendliness for various academic institutions and multinational corporations worldwide, with focus on the West, where maximum students and professionals seek degrees and employment outside India. The parameters we propose for academic institutions are, I'm reading it out. One, Hindu food availability on campus, defined as Hindu veg food and non-halal meat. Number two, Hindu misia in faculty. High Hindu misia will get low marks. Hindu misia among students, high incidence, low marks. Availability of Hindu administered courses on dharmic themes. That's number four. Number five, availability of self-administered temples on campus. Number six, robust grievance redressal. Number seven, celebration of Hindu festivals and cultural events. Number eight, absence of colonial narratives in syllabi / coursework. Not like Audrey Truchke. If you have people on like Audrey Truchke, mark that down. Rajas, I think I was trying to work out Rajas. It
Right.
probably won't get more than 15 marks. Availability of Indian language courses. Number 10, bias in placement services. So, and then I asked, do you think Jaipur Dialogue should take up this project?
You have
And,
yes immediately 91%.
oh, yes. So we got 91% yes.
No, you are
And,
absolutely right. And this-
1.9K showing thumbs up already.
Right. That's powerful.
Sorry?
This is what I mean by creating the institutional framework. And I think you are right.
5.7K votes.
Right.
Total number of votes of 5,700
Wonderful.
already.
Right. So it is
And
not
it's just been 6 hours.
right.
So now that I'm announcing it here on Jaipur Dialogues for everybody, especially our people everywhere. And now, if I think if there's such a huge response, I think it's our duty now to get this project going.
Absolutely. And you will be happy to know that my very dear friend, Mr. Naveen Doshi, who was recently accorded the PhD on spiritual studies by Maharishi University of Management at this one in Iowa. We have two endowments on Indic studies in UCLA and LMU, Loyola Marymount University, and where we teach about India and Indic studies. This is known as Indic studies. So similar work is starting to happen. It was set up. We have a concept of a Bridge Builder Award under Nalanda International. So we are doing it. This has to gather much bigger attention in terms of mobilization, as I call it. India needs to mobilize. Come on, guys. I'm here to ask all of you, wake up. We have nothing to lose. We have nothing to lose.
Cut your chains.
Only to gain.
Cut your mental chains, let's say.
Just make a mental shift. हमें ये करना है बस. और करना चाहिए नहीं, करना है. That's the word. I want to replace. I want to suggest everybody here. Just as I shared with you about the new game of business. I want everyone who is listening today, try for 2 days not to use the word should in your language, in your communication with your family, children, parents, workplace, with anybody. Don't use the word should. Let politicians use that word. For you and I, it's not should. हमें करना है, ये शब्द होना चाहिए. Should is the most destructive word in English language. It's like change के बारे में हम कहते हैं. This is our work. Everybody wants change so long as it doesn't affect me and it doesn't have to happen now. Then everybody must change. There's a fundamental problem with change. सब कहते हैं change होना चाहिए लेकिन कोई नहीं करता because it affects me now and I'm not interested in doing it because I'm too poor, I'm too rich, I don't have money, I'm too busy. These are the excuses for people to make change. So I will share with you some of the time the whole exercise of enemies of learning, as we call it, and stages of learning. So, these are some of the very powerful things India needs to do, transformative mental shift now. We have enough of our own. We don't need others. Learn from others, but we don't have to say that Videshi is better, we are inferior. Get out of that mindset, please. Everybody, universally.
That's quite right, and we request all the people to start throwing their questions because we'll soon be moving towards the question and answers. And yes, your final parting shot. What's your prediction about Quad in 5 years?
My prediction is I think I will be around after 5 years to testify whether I was correct or not. This is not a 5-year plan. Let me put it this way to you. It is not a 5-year plan. It is going to stay. But one critical element here is how will China exploit each of the country's weakness? And it takes a great amount of character and courage to come together on adventures like this. The one thing which I do know, that China makes everybody uncomfortable. Even Nixon and Kissinger foray into China was driven more out of opportunity of a market, not realizing that what a monster it will become. But while China did play the geopolitical game with the United States, reason was very simple. When the well-known story about how Reagan and the church colluded to bring about the downfall of Soviet Union, none of us cared two hoots about Russia at that time, USSR at that time, because we did not consume anything made in Russia. The only thing known about Russia was Sputnik and Lada cars. Who knew anything about Russia? China learned that lesson very quickly. To that, you have to admire their pragmatism. So when they tell India that we have to have a pragmatic relationship and practical relationship, take it seriously, because they are playing not on an emotional level. We have to get out of the emotional mumbo jumbo that we fall into the trap of. China is playing a pragmatic game, and you have to become alert to that part. The pragmatism is the nature of the game. If you are not pragmatic with China, it has to be an equal give and take. You know that they want you to fail. How can you accept any suggestion they make which makes you fail? We have to become aware about that part. So China will exploit the weakness of each one of the four countries. India has to become a definite Make in India campaign must succeed to become an alternate for supplying goods and services and trinkets and masks to the rest of the world. Why isn't Indian masks being supplied? Can you believe it? I go to buy a dosa in Chennai dosa in Long Island. There is in a bucket there are masks kept there, and they're all made in China. मैंने उनसे कहा कि अपना बनाओ ना, चेन्नई से बना के लाओ, चाइना से क्यों, चेन्नई से बना के लाओ. But the point is that we are not competing in any of these levels. So even after 9/11, the pins and cups and saucers were all made in China, commemorating 9/11. Why isn't India doing things like this? And that takes me back to the conversation that I had in the Indian consulate the day China had a $42 billion trade surplus. Americans asking, can take at least 10% of our manufacturing going to China? So I think Quad will stay because India is on the right track. India has realized that China cannot be its friend. It has to be dealt on a transactional basis, one item to another. There will be no long-term solution with China. Everything will move because China will definitely pinprick you. And they have their Napak friend on the other side. who will keep creating trouble. So we have to face the reality. Japan is definitely convinced about that. United States, if it doesn't become victim of its own illiberalism and populism based on freedoms, it will, China, like we had talked about in the past, Biden will not be able to undermine India, and India is too big to be ignored. So I think this is, in 5 years' time, this is going to become bigger, something like an, not as big as NATO, but you will find South Korea, Vietnam, these countries joining that Quad. They're joining the Quad. I 100% believe that. Because South Korea doesn't like China. Nobody likes to be bullied, and every country is bullied there. So whether it's Indonesia, Vietnam, Cambodia, they will all generally come into the fold if the current Quad shows the strength.
Okay. So time to move over to questions and answers. Sure. And I request once again all the viewers to please like and share the video, to subscribe the channel, to press the bell icon, and please contribute as handsomely as you can to our cause. Thank you. Let's move to the questions and answers. शालदेरा कुमार, राष्ट्र निर्माण के मनीषियों को प्रणाम, आपको बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद.
Thank you.
Vikas, love to hear these intellectual and informed discussions. Keep them coming. Thank you, Vikas ji. Thank you. Ramesh Noon, when is the Ramdev Baba Bharatiya Shiksha Board getting operational? No idea. I'm myself trying to find out. I don't know what's gone wrong with it. I've been exploring and even sending them messages to make it operational quickly. I don't know what roadblock it has hit. It's already been approved. No idea. Varun Sood. We speak about Quad while NCRT shows how schools teach to see US as a hegemon. If I was US, I would object. NCRT, of course, is another story altogether. And, well, what to say? We are trying to get the better of NCRT. We're trying all the tricks that we have. And we got some powerful friends right now within the political establishment. So I think we should get better of the NCRT soon under the new education policy. Abhijit Sudhakar, Pranam both sirs. Just wanted to say, hey Bharat ke Ram jago, main tumhe jagane aaya hoon. Question for Vibhuti ji. Is West not conducive to Hindu as Abhijit Iyer Mitra said? Can I stay in US still? Ask this on Sunday.
I think staying in the US is not a problem. What is important here is to take advantage of the opportunity that US gives you. And that's what advantage I'm taking of it. Like Abhijit believes that it's not conducive to Hindus. I have a different theory on this. The reason why the Christianity and Islam are not conducive to or not friendly with Hindus is because our Sanatan Dharma is based on science and scientific principles. Abrahamic faiths are based on diktats or directions. We are seekers, they are followers. So we have an intellectual difference here in the way we pursue our life. And as the science and technology is advancing, take advantage of that. I do it all the time. As the science and technology is advancing, you have to question the basic beliefs. And don't question as an authority, question as an inquiry. And that's what is important. Thunder and lightning do not happen because gods are angry. We know that now. Gabbar Singh se dar jane ki baat jo hai, it is a matter of film, not reality. So the question is that men are responsible for gender determination of a child. We know that now. So if somebody says women are responsible for, we have to question as President Biden said recently, and I'm very welcoming of that. We are science-based. We will base on science. Good. Let's talk about it then. In every single aspect of our life, bring science into the conversation. That's where the emancipation will happen for everybody.
The only problem is that even the liberal arts people start calling themselves social science. That's
No.
what creates all the problem.
Sanjay, you must have heard about this, and people must have heard about it, that even mathematics here, they are talking about, the woke people are talking about, that it asks for definitive answers. So it should be not be allowed to be taught. It is what is the word phrase you use? The math is also supremacist thing. Yeah. Can you imagine that? If we don't fight it,
yeah. So that means science is supremacist.
Yes.
Yes. They talk of certainties. Certainties are not allowed.
Correct.
Except when certainties of the wokes, those are allowed. Damned fascists, these wokes. Next. Algebra, Mr. Vibhuti, what is the Israeli angle on this? Israel is friends with China and sitting in the US. What is American Jewish attitude towards China?
It's a very nice question, very tough question, because Israel is fighting its battle for survival. The entire region, the population growth in that region will overwhelm Israel at some point in time. So they are concerned about it. They're trying to find alliances wherever possible. So you collaborate on transactional issues, even though ideologically may be different. So Israel is friends with China, sitting in US. So they are serving their own survival game. Can't blame them for that. But how Israel has survived, I will urge, if you haven't read that book. That is a famous book. That name is slipping out of my mind, but written 10 or 12 years ago. The Startup Nation. That book is a must-read for every Indian, not because of anything else, but how they created the conditions to let Israel become who they are. I mean, they have done astonishing research. Their young people fight in the war. They enlist in the armed forces, so as a result of which nationalism comes in them. Battle of survival comes in them. So India needs to read that book as well.
Again, algebra. Also, Mr. Vibhuti, why are there not so many Desi billionaires? We are more educated. What is that we are not doing that American Jews are doing? What should we stop doing or start doing?
It's a good question. Desi billionaires in America are few, because we are not in the business of innovation. We are not in the business of entrepreneurship of the kind that requires. There are some Indians have done very well in entrepreneurship as well. But we love to serve. That's why we have many CEOs in many companies. And I would urge that those geniuses, genius CEOs, start up their own Facebook, their own stuff. That's what makes you a billionaire. Working in a company never makes you a billionaire. You always suffer from, as I always call it, while I was at Reserve Bank of India or American Express, you suffer from the poverty of the middle class. Continuous syndrome, paycheck to paycheck. If you want to become rich and wealthy, you have to become an entrepreneur, build your skills, and develop a business. That's what needs to happen here.
Correct. Next. Tech ops. Globally, in democratic setup, why are there only two parties? In ideal scenario, more parties should come, but that does not seem to happen. Your thoughts?
Well, US has two parties. UK has 3 or 4 more parties. India has no end of parties, actually. Every election, new parties come up. So this is a part of the system. US also is trying to get there is a party called Liberal Party. There is a Libertarians, Green Party. They're all there. But I would put it this way: the establishment doesn't want more than 2 to succeed. And for the third party to emerge, wait for 2024. If Trump Republican Party doesn't support him, he may be able to swing in his own party, plus the non-socialists from Democratic Party will join him. So let's put it that way. It can happen in the US, but eventually, who knows?
Okay. Pratik, is 25th Amendment coming soon? Looking at how frail Sleepy Joe is, people complain about Modi that he does no press conferences about Uncle Joe.
Look, about Modi not doing the press conference, I can sympathize and I can probably agree with
How
that.
about Uncle Joe? Okay.
He talks all the time. Modi ji is already campaigning every time, so you can hear him speak, and he is already giving speeches, so everybody to know. Joe के साथ problem ये है कि यहाँ की convention रही है. It has been a convention that president gives a press conference. It has been more than 50 days and he hasn't done. No other president had taken that. You know that he won the election from the bunker. He was not a president-elect. He was a president nominated or through victorious path. What I'm trying to say is that 25th Amendment may not have to come at all. I think after the first State of the Union, I have said this in the past, and I reiterate, my guesswork is that after the first rounds, Mr. Joe Biden will quit the presidency. He is not going to be there for all 4 years. And the business is something very interesting. They want to continue the Democratic Party's tradition and the drift that is happening. And they want Kamala Harris to fight the election as an incumbent president rather than a vice presidential candidate trying to be the president. The vice presidents have never succeeded well in the presidential elections. Incumbents succeed. And that is the game plan. 25th Amendment doesn't need to come at all. I won't be surprised. Because one thing is definitely true. His recent trip on the climbing up the Air Force thing was a bad optics. Very, very bad optics. And there his press people said it was wind. अरे भैया अगर वो gone with the wind हो गया तो फिर कैसे काम चलेगा?
What happened? I missed that.
You missed that. Oh, you watch it. It's hilarious. He tripped on the one step. Then he was trying to get up and he tripped again. And then he tried to get up and he tripped again third time. The third time he hit himself hard on the knee and he hobbled up. You are the president of the United States. What if you had tumbled down? So there is an optic in America. The people try to show they are still youthful. He would show the running, trotting to coming to give this speech. It's a fashion in America to show that you are still youthful. But one has to agree with one thing, that he is nearing 80. Everybody's mental faculty, physical faculty, they do become frail. So, there is nothing wrong in acknowledging that I'm no longer physically that viable. But pretending to be that I'm viable when I'm not, you make a laughing stock of yourself. So now you are more under protection, whether you gire kahan, akele jayenge. When you are in trouble, take the stick and go up. Then nobody stops you from doing that. But why pretend to be what you are not? So I think President Biden will quit presidency on health grounds, and I will not blame him for that. It's a very tiring job. It's a very demanding job. Presidency ages you faster than you can ever imagine. Right.
Okay. Next one. Nishikant Sharma. Jha, so you forgot to mention Pak as ally of China along with North Korea, Iran, Russia. What will it take for China to implode? Of course, he mentioned.
I mentioned you came in late because that's what we had already said. What is also very worrisome for the rest of the world, Australia, India, is the way China treats Taiwan, Tibet, and Hong Kong. That is something nobody likes. In this current scenario, even the Democratic Party liberals who are pro-China can't approve of that. Remember that. That's why I said illiberalism and wokeism will not be able to make America pro-China.
Okay. Krishna Sundar, based on current trend, how long does it take for China to assert its influence in California? Okay. That's a good word for
No, not really. Those are unlikely bedfellows. I sometimes really wonder, how can Democratic Party be aligned with China? On what basis? How can Democratic Party be aligned with its Muslims? I don't get it, because ideologically and theologically they are world apart. The Democratic Party talks about LGBTQ. Islam doesn't talk about that at all. They are totally antithetical to that. Similarly with China. So these are the classic cases of politics makes strange bedfellows. So they have some agreement or someplace. It will not happen. California will not become California.
Krishna Sundar, why would gun control work in a country that already has 300 million guns in circulation?
The gun thing is something which I don't understand. It is part of this constitution, and but I always say that just because you have the gun control law or constitution provides you arming yourself to protect yourself from state terror. That is the whole idea. Doesn't mean you buy a tank. Doesn't mean you buy an aircraft carrier. I definitely favor some kind of a control on that, because kis tarah ke, you definitely don't want a rubber gun. But if you are attacked by somebody, this country was designed for that purpose, is to give you the gun right to protect yourself against invaders, against unlawful elements, more importantly, against state tyranny. That was important. So it is an open question. It will not work. Maybe there will be some measurements of what kind of guns one can hold, which is fair enough.
Right. Next. Vidya, China undermines Quad. Recent protest in Australia.
You're absolutely right. We talked about that. The ideological, educational part of it, they have their stooges everywhere. I'm 100% sure even the communists of India will rise against Quad. Because I remember when nuclear deal was signed, Sitaram Yechuri had made the statement that signing the nuclear deal is anti-Islamic. I remember that statement of his. So, they have their chamchas who will do whatever they are given the text to read.
Who knows who got those gelatin sticks planted in front of Mukesh Ambani's house? No, who knows that? We'll come to know, of course. Pranam to both of you. Sujay Dhar, do you think India and Quad means Indian soldiers may enter Afghanistan in future? Not Indian can access US weapons supply.
And
The Quad is against China. So that's Afghanistan doesn't come into it.
No, it is Quad has nothing to do with Afghanistan. Let's put it that way. Afghanistan is a separate, separate affair. But access to technology, yes, of course, which is already happening.
Right. Algebra Vibhuti, Mr. Vibhuti, even though I'm a Hindu, I'm subscribed to Jewish review of books. I'm trying to understand what do they know that we don't know. I think they positively promote their own. Your opinion?
I accept your statement, Algebra, in the sense that you have to know others as well as you need to know yourself. So if your quest is to understand what they know that we don't know, it's a good thing. You learn about others. It's very important. And I think your second statement is also correct. They positively promote their own. We are more critical, condemning, cynical about ourselves because of the brainwashing that we have been made to go through. We have to arise, awaken, assert, and act. That's what I say. You are absolutely right. And now, after doing this Jewish review of books, read your own. And then you will find how wonderful our thoughts are.
Correct. Vipin Kumar, so do you think sometimes in future there may be a possibility of Russia joining Quad as China occasionally fingers Russia too?
That is a speculation. That's a possibility. I will not comment upon. But should if Russia is right now hobnobbing with China, because Russia is a weak economy right now, so they are looking at support. So hey, who knows? China definitely is trying to woo Russia at the moment. China doesn't want to be alone. So they maybe on the basis of Marxism ideology, they may come together. Who knows?
Sometimes, I just don't understand why Americans can't be pragmatic and get Russia into their own orbit. I think that the military establishment is the problem here.
Yeah. You needed an enemy, and your enemy is still a friend of yours. One thing is definitely known: Russia and US will never fight a nuclear war. There is no reason for them to fight a war. The Cold War is over. It is being pushed through by certain agendas. It's like Germany gets massive supply of its energy needs from Russia. Germany never speaks against anything about Russia, though it's a NATO member. A point which Mr. Trump had raised at one point in time. So there is a need for realism. कि nuclear war nahi hone wala hai. So I totally agree with you, Sanjay ji, that somewhere along the line, friendship between Russia and US will help the world more than anything else.
Yes, and I see absolutely no reason. I mean, Russia is really no competition for United States in that sense. Uh, Maybe they can keep their thousands of nuclear stockpile, but that's
Right.
that.
That's it.
It's quite beats my brains why these Americans can't see such a simple thing.
Maybe you see
Anyway,
the thing, you don't want to acknowledge it.
thoughts on Joe Musk Twitter feud?
What's that? What is it? I'm not aware of that much.
Joe Biden, Elon Musk Twitter feud.
Oh, Joe Biden, Elon Musk. No, I have not seen that Twitter feud at all, so I don't know what it is. What you are referring to?
Okay, next. Vibhuti Ji, can we start fund for Jaipur dialogue in GoFundMe? And Sanjay Ji, please list what is the best method to fund you without paying other institutions. Is PayPal better? Well,
Dilip ji?
Dilip Ji, thank you very much for the
Yes.
thought.
Yes.
I think right now the one that is working best for us is PayPal only. So that should work. Tulsidas plus Shivaji plus Vivekanand plus Gandhi plus Subhash Chandra Bose plus B.B. Patel plus Savarkar plus Ambedkar is equal to Modism, and that is the only solution for India, the USA, and the world. Your opinion? Okay.
Emerged as a Param Bhakt.
There is one weak point in this. Otherwise, it's all perfect. I am not saying which one. You figure out.
मजबूरी का नाम महात्मा गांधी.
Sasta Vikas. Wow. Interesting name. Sasta Vikas. Vijay Tayyar should promote Iyengarism with Trump in America. Trump will then win easily. Trump 2024. I will pass on your thoughts to him. Definitely, I will do that. Next. Sarthak. Ram sir. What about Russia-India relations? India has been able to make Russia a great ally post the USSR era, and we know Putin is not a fan of Modi. USA isn't a friend, and Russia has collaborated with Pakistan in military operations, etc. Well, personal friendships apart, it's the national interests that are paramount in international relations.
Right.
So, whether Putin is fond of Modi or not, if the national interests align, then Russia will go along with us. As simple as that. Vibhuti ji, anything to add?
I would only say that India must bear in mind. That's important to remember that in international relationships is a interest, not personality, that matters. It is your interest determines your foreign policy thing. Russia has been always supportive. Critical support of keeping Kashmir with India was the Russian veto in the United Nations Security Council. Otherwise, if Russia had not, it would have gone long back. even though we may or may not have given. So we owe our some debt to Russia. In return, we have done a lot of good trades with Russia. So you don't have to abandon Russia. Let's not do that. We have to remember that they have been friends. And temporary alignments apart, I don't consider Pakistan as even an equation. I think they do that only to tell India that this joker is available, let me not use that card. That's it.
Aditya, does Bob Menendez, US Senator, Democrat, recent letter to US Defense Secretary on India's deteriorating democracy shows that US is being bullied to India? I think Mr. Jaishankar put it perfectly that we are not seeking approval from these, what is called, the Johnny come lately and pretenders who pretend to protect democracy. Okay, show that US is being polluted. I know for recent few weeks and attacks on Asian American and blacks does show US democracy also to be broken. That's why we are trying to put up an index. Maybe we'll graduate to a country index from this, depending on how this goes.
The problem with the Bob Menendez situation, the letter writing is, I don't take it seriously, and I would urge don't get pricked by this. The people who have persuaded him to write that letter are the people, I can dare say that, are the people who were formerly, or they are still representing Indian National Congress here. And, these people have been very close. 80% of the Indians are still Democrats. They're very close to them. And they have, many of the Democratic Party people and members have told me, we don't care how you handle your internal matters. I don't go to India to ask your opinion whether what I'm doing with my own enemies and in my own internal affairs. So you have full rights to do whatever you want. But there are your people who ask us to do this. And we have no objection to doing that because they fund me. They give me campaign funds. So I would not attach any importance to Menendez letters at all. I would urge you not to say, but reply to him. Who persuaded you to write this letter? Let's ask the question. I know these guys who are persuading you to write this letter. So that's why I'm not saying anything about that.
Okay, next. Okay, so that brings us to the end of this show today. Thank you all viewers. Thank you Vibhuti Ji.
Thank you.
Jai Hind, Vande Mataram.
Jai Hind, Vande Mataram, and thank you viewers. See you again.